Okay, so just like a virus, this project's not going away either anytime soon. We're on this KX500. We're finally going to put this engine into the frame. Last video we showed you putting this engine together. It's been quite a project getting to this point. So we have our engine that in a previous video you can check out where we got this two-stroke KX500 engine all going together. TMR modded that. We have that all going together. We have our brakes, which are really cool, all vapor blasted by my buddy, and also Moto Blasters did some Cerakoting. We got our spec bolts ready to go to start fitting this thing up. FMF pipe. We custom made ourselves a silencer out of some other silencers to make a silencer. Our suspension, which we thought was a great deal at 300, turned out not to be such a great deal because legs were bad. So we had to actually buy new legs. So we have way more into these forks than we planned, but we had to buy some lower legs for these things. But it looks awesome. So got all of our UFO plastic. And these are the updated forks off of 2012. Today we're just going to have wheels on it that are just to roll it around. We don't have our custom built wheels from Faster yet. Faster USA's building those for us. We'll have those. But today we're hoping to get this thing rolling. Hopefully get 80 to 90% done, get everything bolted up here and see what we're missing. We're going to be missing some stuff, so I'm pretty sure of that. But at least we can get this thing pretty far along today. We're going to press the bearing races into the frame right now, put the triple clamp on, get the forks on, and start building this thing out so that we can get the engine in and kind of move along. I think we're going to have a long day getting this thing as far as we can. So I don't know what else we've learned, but it's a lot to do. We're going to show you how it's done right now. Okay, so as you can see, the engine just came out gorgeous in this thing, and so that's why we really enjoyed taking these photos with this engine just looking amazing with our vapor blasting and Cerakoting. First things we always do is get the steering races, the bearings into the frame, heat up the frame, pound those in. Same thing with our clamps here. Now we're messing with those, and of course, in this case, we did have a problem with our top clamp but not being correct, and we had to do some little changes there, but we got that taken care of. And as you can see, once we get the engine in there, we can work on the bike pretty easily. We don't have anything tied down too bad. We got the milk crate to hold the forks up. It's better than having the wheel to get around, and we can work on the bike and start getting around with everything. We weren't real familiar with these KX500s and the rear, the way the dog bones are, the linkage. It's been 10 months or something since we tore this thing apart. So it was a bit confusing to us. We had to call in and look at some manuals and pulling up the parts finder. If you see somebody on the phone there, he's looking at the parts finder. That can be very helpful. I think I was on the phone right there with somebody there, you know, like, hey, how do we do this? And we had to take the swing arm off and figure it out again and make sure we had this all the right way with the right spacers. So you want to look at really pay attention to how it comes apart. This bike was a little bit more complicated in that aspect than we were used to because these 500s run a little bit different system to hook up all that stuff than the other ones. So that was a little bit tough for us, but otherwise, you can see with two guys going back and forth, it makes us a lot quicker. And again, like I said earlier, this process is going to be a lot different for a lot of guys. We ran a KX450 axle, which sticks out way further, and we actually got this cut off later. And we run the Honda nut on there, so you don't have to have a cotter pin. So we got that machined off shorter on a lathe, and it looks really nice, all finished. And we'll have that in our final finish video. So we go through and we're making sure everything's torqued, and we get everything kind of ran as well as we can before we start doing the electronics. Once you get it to this point, you can move the bike around. That's always nice to be able to have the bike where you can actually move it around and have a rolling chassis, so to speak. I say nothing was easy. Even setting up the rear brake, you know, everything takes a little bit of work because it's not, when you're running KX450 parts, updated parts, it can all be a little bit off. And that's some of the stuff we were dealing with. And then you can see there's a little bit of sections here where it's like kind of like county workers on the road where there's three of us staring at the bike. And that's because we're like, what do we do now? And so there was a little bit of that because, again, none of us were really familiar with KX500s. But again, follow the book. Pulling up the parts finder on any of those sites is really helpful, and that can really help out a ton. And there's a few parts you saw we had the subframe on, subframe comes off, and we put it back on and make sure everything's lined up. So this kind of stuff is, I guess, doing this thing, we were able to do this thing a lot faster, getting this thing 80, 90, or more like 90% in one day with this many guys contributing and working around, and you're able to go really fast. And again, I was able to round up 90% of the parts we needed in advance, and to get everything set up the correct way. And when we start to fit something up, then we realize, oh, we don't want to put that on yet. Now you go, okay, let's put the pipe back on now. Now we can run it. We want to make sure that we're not blocking things that we need to get to. So as we work, we make sure everything is still accessible. Little things didn't fit as well. The rear fender to seat relationship was, and we've still modified that since then and got it a little bit better, so that it fits nicely with our new seat. So those are things we learn as we go on these types of builds. This bike has been really fun. Having all brand new hardware from Spec Bolt was really nice, so we could have all brand new matching hardware on the whole bike. That's been a really good thing. And you can see here we're messing with the seat fitment. That was fun. Like to sit on the bike and make sure all the controls are at a good location, good neutral location for most people. Bleeding brakes is a big job. It can take a long time. And as you can see, we're messing with the brake pedal relationship and keep modifying it so that it doesn't, grinding away on the back side of the brake, and also the spacer. There's a spacer we need to run. So that was important to do. And as you can see, this thing just came out really nice. Just a gorgeous looking bike for something that's 30 years old. Jay here. We've been working on this thing a bunch. Gave you a little step-by-step, but now we're kind of closing out the day. We had 3 of us working on this thing. It was really about 2, because one guy's filming and spending half his time doing that, and I was doing some other stuff on some other bikes and tires. So, and we had my buddy David doing all day. So it was about at least 8 hours today with 2 full guys is what it took to go over this thing. There's just a lot of, when you're doing these bikes and these restorations, now most guys, if they're doing this, they're going to be doing 2 to 3 hours a couple nights a week over a long period of time. I kind of gather up all the parts and everything, and I kind of know what we need to get, and I can get this far in one day because I had everything kind of pre-arranged. Spec Bolt was a huge help, having all those bolt kits for us. But even though they're a huge help, it's still a pain to kind of find out where everything goes and get everything totally dialed in and where it's supposed to be. So, but a good time today. We accomplished a lot. It's pretty far along, as you can see, but it's actually not as far along as there's still a lot of stuff to do. We got to finish up some brake bleeding. We got to get some stuff machined that I mentioned. We're still a little ways away from probably being able to start it. We're going to get our jetting dialed in. We have to buy a few things. I need to buy a needle. So we're going to mess with some of that stuff and a couple little pieces. The chain guide that goes around the front of the chain, don't got that, and I don't know that it's available. That last time I checked, so we might have to find one on eBay or somewhere. So that's one of our next, goals here. So we need to round up some more of those parts, and I'm going to be back on this video. I say a few days. It could be a week or 3 before we get back on this thing, and I'll get some of those things machined, and we can video us finishing this thing or getting really a lot closer and starting it. So looks kind of cool with the stock seat. We will be changing the seat cover out when we have our graphics. We'll have some more modern looking graphics and that kind of stuff when we get ready to do that. So fun look at this bike for today. Enjoy the next little segment here. Okay, we're back here on this KX500 build. Last time we didn't get completely finished. We're a couple weeks later, just because we got other stuff going on as well. And we had to get a few OEM parts. We got our jetting finished in the carburetor. We got that on with this key and carb. We got that on. We got our skid plate fitted up. We were missing the chain guide around the swing arm. We got that on there. We got our chain on, of course. And we had some wheels on here to just break it in and ride it the first time. And we got all that stuff on here. And then I got to start it the other day, just 2 days ago. Got to start it, and that was actually kind of cool. Donnie wasn't here, but I got it all ready. I'm like, we could start this thing now. So I went ahead and started it with this decomp from Tom Morgan. You push it in like so. It's really cool. Makes a little sound, shooting air out. And it was a lot easier to start. I still felt way more comfortable with a boot on, just because it's, again, I'm paranoid of the thing firing back and breaking my leg or whatever. And so it felt way more comfortable with the boot on. But it did, when I had a boot on, I felt like it was easier to start than a 250 two-stroke. So I thought it was pretty good. So that was really good. That mod with that decomp, if you got a 500, I would get that done from Tom Morgan. That's really good. So I got to start it the other day, and I just started it, didn't even have a chain on it, and just, I knew that it started. So the next day, Donnie came over here, and we got the chain on, fitted up, and we did a few other things, and we went and rode it. And so we got some footage of us riding it just on the fields by my house. And at first, I was really scared, and then when I was done, I was just a little bit scared, or just kind of medium scared. So it's still pretty gnarly. And I've ridden fast 450s. I don't know how it would compare to that. I think I'd still feel less scared on a fast 450. Wouldn't you? Yeah. And less vibration and stuff. I think the vibration's not terrible. It's worse, I think, when it's idling than when it is riding. So we're going to, once we get on the track, we'll be able to kind of tell that for sure, and tell. But we got this thing all prettied up. Where we're at right now is we're going to be shooting it with the magazine real soon. But we wanted to make it look good. We've got a vintage bike show we'll have some pictures of right here. We're going to have it displayed out there at Langston's. Donnie's a good friend with Grant, and he's going to have it displayed out there with a bunch of other older bikes, and guys will get a kick out of seeing this thing all fixed up with the new front end and everything. So we have our Faster USA wheels with golfer brake lines and brake rotors, oversized front for the KX450, regular size rear. We've had to do a little tinkering. Our rear wheel wasn't, the spacing with this KX450 wasn't exactly right. We had the swing arm modified. We had to put a spacer in there, but our wheel is spinning really good now. And that was something that we were at first messing with. So we're going to mess with that a little bit more and get that completely dialed. P3 found us a skid plate that was pretty close. And we welded the tabs on when we got it done, but we couldn't really do the final cutting until we had it here with the engine in, so we could cut it to miss the engine and the pipe. And we got 4 bolts down there holding it in. It's really, really cool. I'll get a picture down here of that skid plate bolted up. And you can see it just came out really cool. It was really, I think the skid plate was off a gas or something, that two-stroke that we were able to make fit with a bunch of work, just like everything else on this thing. Last time we finished bleeding our brakes, we had all that stuff done. We were missing just a couple little pieces, and we got a couple pieces machined up here in our steering stem. With this spacing was off a little bit, so we trimmed down this nut right here, and we got that looking really nice. Triple clamps are on now. Our front number plate is on and secure. We needed a different cam for the ODI throttle tube. We got that in here. So that's all good, of course, and you don't want to have any throttle problems on this thing. And I think that was about it. We were pretty surprised riding it, you know, and surprised at, first of all, how well it starts, and then it does feel pretty dang good. So it was pretty impressive in that aspect. So this has been an incredible build. So the next step that we'll show you is when it's all done with graphics on it with the magazine guys, and we'll get some action of this thing on a track, hopefully like a Glen Helen track, a big wide open track somewhere. We can get a little bit more footage, but as you can see, it looks pretty good naked, as I call it. This seat cover is 20 years old, and we cleaned it up pretty good. And oh, Donnie's saying 20. That's 91. Oh, 01. 10, 21. 21s are out right now. That's 30 years old. Dang, time flies. Dang, I've almost been married that long too. So that's a long time. Yeah, so I can't think of anything else. This bike has just been, it's been pretty cool to work on. I joke around that I don't like working on it, but it's mainly because I could do 2 or 4 modern bike builds, probably more like 4, compared to doing one of these. You know, it's just so much more logistics and getting it done. We've sent out some, see the frame right here? We made some patterns for that, and Helio's going to make us up some cool frame tape for right there that we'll have on there real soon. So we'll have a picture of that on there. Got that on there, and this thing, with our super sprocket chain and sprockets now on there, the thing ripped, and we just washed it up. So we're going to have this thing at our little display show, and then we'll have it in the magazine real soon. As you can see, it's a lot of work, but we couldn't put a price on what everything costs. That's a big thing. What's it all cost? I'm like, I always say if you have to ask, then it's probably too much. So probably don't want to do it, right? Less than a side-by-side. That's very, very true. So don't go side-by-side racing and just stick to dirt bikes. It's a lot less on the pocketbook. So hopefully you enjoy. We'll check you out at the track or trail soon.